In this video, we'll go over how much severance a federal employee would be entitled to in a RIF, a reduction in force. And at the end of the video, we'll go over when you wouldn't be entitled to separation payments and why you probably should not be using the estimation worksheet on OPM's website. So I did another video like this, but the sound was off, so I'm redoing it. Let's start with some assumptions. Let's assume it's a federal worker making $104,000 a year. And the reason we'll use that is that works out to $2,000 a week, which makes the math easy, but you can punch in your own numbers based on how much you're making. And the average salary for a federal worker in the US is $106,000, so this isn't far off. So based on that, if you get terminated in a RIF, a reduction in force, not because you're fired for performance reasons or insubordination or anything like that, but if you're fired because of a RIF, this is how much severance you should be entitled to. For the first 10 years, you're going to get 1 week of pay for each year that you worked. For the next 10 years, for the first 10 years, you're going to get 1 week of severance for each year of service. Anything over 10 years, you're going to get 2 weeks of pay for each year of service. And if you're over 40, for the years that you're over 40, you're going to get an additional 10% for the years that you're over 40. So if you're 50 with 10 years of service, that would be 10 years that you're over 40. So if you have 10 years of service, that would be your weekly salary times 1.1 week. So if you're 50 years old, that's 10 years that you're over 40. And if you had 10 years of service, then you would get 1 week of pay for each of those years and an additional 10%. And if you had worked for 20 years and some of those were over 40, for the years that you're over 40 and you had more than 10 years of service, you would get 2 weeks pay and an additional 10% for those over 40 years. But what if you had 10 or 15 years and a few extra months? How does that work? So here's a chart. And in the rules, it actually says 25% of the amount for every 3 months over a full year. And that's kind of complicated, but the easy way to think about it is this. There's 12 months in a year. There's 12 hours in a clock. So each of those is a quarter hour, right? So for every 3 months, you would get an additional 1/4 of a week pay if it's not a full year. So if I had 8 years and 3 months, I would get 8 weeks pay plus an additional 1/4 of a week. If I had 8 years and 6 months, then I would get 8 weeks pay plus an additional half a week, right? Because 2 halves, 6 months is a half. So back to our case study, 104,000, it's 2,000 a week. First 10 years, 1 week of service, 1 week of severance for each year of service. After 10 years, you get 2 weeks of severance for each year of service, plus 10% if you're over 40 for the years that you are over 40, not for the whole amount, only for the years that you're over 40. So here's an example. This person is age 44 with 15 years of service. So for the first 10 years, he would get 1 week severance, or she, and that would be $20,000, right? 2,000 a week times 10, that's 20,000. So that's for the first 10 years, and they have 15 years of service. So for the next 5 years, they would get 2 weeks of service for that. So 2 weeks severance times 5 years, that's an additional 20,000, right? So now we got 20 and 20, we got 40, but they're age 44, right? So some of those years, they are over 40. So how much pay do they get for that? So for the years that you're over 40, not for the whole thing, only for the years that you're over 40, you're going to get an additional 10%. So they're 44. So 4 of those years, they're over 40 years old. And because they have over 10 years of service, those years that they're over 40 would fall into this 2 week severance bucket. So 44, that's 4 years over 40. So 2,000 times 4 times 2, because they're getting that double multiplier, times an additional 10%, and that would give them an additional $1,600. So in this example, if they were getting $104,000 a year, 44 with 15 years of service, they would be entitled to 40 plus 40 plus 1,600, and that's 41,600. And if it was 15 years and 3 months or 15 years and 6 months, then you would remember this clock, and for each of those 3 months, you would get an additional quarter week. So when would you not get severance pay? You would not get severance pay if you're eligible for an immediate annuity when you're separated. So if you're eligible for an immediate annuity when you're separated, you would not get that. So what does that mean? That means that if you were eligible for the VERA or the DSR, the discontinued service retirement, then you wouldn't get any severance if you get terminated in a RIF. So if you have over 25 years of service or you're 50 with 20 years of service, you would be eligible for a VERA if they offered it. If you didn't take the VERA and you were terminated in a RIF and you get the discontinued service retirement, you would get the immediate pension, so you would not get a severance. It's either or, you don't get both. So there's a lot of online calculators from different private websites, and they tell you that you're entitled to a severance, but you're not if you are entitled to an immediate pension. And that goes for the MRA plus 10 also. So if I've got 10 years of service and I'm the MRA, my minimum retirement age, it's 57 for me, I would not get severance. So what if I'm 57, I'm terminated in a RIF, and I don't want to get my pension until 62 because I want to collect my full pension? Do I get severance? No. And where's that from? Because I would be entitled to an immediate annuity. So even if I'm not taking it, it makes me ineligible for severance. And where's that come from? In the Code of Federal Regulations 550.703. So it says an immediate annuity includes one that meets the definitions. Immediate annuity is one that you'd be eligible for 1 month after retirement. And that includes stuff in MRA plus 10 or VERA or DSR. And as I said, even if you want to wait till 62 to get the full pension because you are MRA plus 10 and you don't want to take a reduced pension, if you would have been entitled to that benefit, but you postpone it because you want to get it at a later date, that still counts as an immediate annuity. So you would not get the separation payment according to this statute, or according to these documents, if you're eligible for it. So you get separation payment if you don't get an immediate annuity. If you get an immediate annuity, you don't get a separation payment. If you're eligible for an immediate annuity under MRA plus 10 because you're 57 or 58 and you want to wait to start collecting it till 62 because you want the full annuity, you still don't get the separation payment because you were eligible for the immediate annuity and you chose not to take it. So why do I say you probably don't want to use the online payment calculators? Here's one from GitHub, and I put in that I make 140,000, 20 years of service, and I'm 58. So I would be entitled to the immediate annuity under MRA plus 10. I also, because of the 20 years of service, would be entitled to the DSR if I'm terminated in a RIF. And this is telling me that I would be entitled to 104,000 almost, because you're not entitled to more pay than 1 year severance. However, we know that's wrong because, as I said, if you're entitled to an immediate annuity, you don't get severance. So this website is wrong. Why did I say you're probably better off not using the OPM calculator? This worksheet is very accurate, but it's also very complicated. So they want you to take your annual pay, which in this case would be 104,000, divide by 2,087, and then multiply by 40. I think you're better off just taking your annual pay and dividing it by 52. And it will give you a number that is 99% as accurate as this number. So why is it a little different? Because if you take your annual salary and you divide it by 52 weeks, then it'll give you an accurate number. So 104,000 divided by 52 weeks is 2,000 a week. But if you take 52 weeks and you multiply by 7, because there's 7 days in a week, you don't get 365 and a half. Sorry. You don't get 365 and a quarter, which is how many days there are in a year. You get 364. So as you know, there's 365 and 0.25 days in a year, and that's why we have a leap year. And if you take 52 weeks times 7 days, you get 364. And that's why this worksheet that OPM gives you will give you an exact number, but you're going to take your salary, divide by 2,087 and multiply by 40, and it will give you a number that's 100% accurate. But if you just take your salary and divide it by 52, you're going to get a number that's like 99.4% accurate. So close enough for government work, literally. So I hope that was helpful. If you got some value out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you'll see future updates. If there's anything else you'd like to see, just leave it in the comments. If you want to support the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description, but don't feel like you have to. And good luck out